Thank you for staying with us. Now, to talk about or discuss further on the rising spate of insecurity in Nigeria, especially in Ekiti State, we have joining us in the studio Abdulateef Ahmed. He's the digital news editor and head of research for News Central. Hello, Abdul. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
On Village Square Africa. Yes, indeed. All right, so Abdulateef, now the first question that I actually, want you to actually, answer is, what is the root cause, or what do you think is the root cause of ransom demands, especially in kidnapping cases in Ekiti State? Because, we know of this kind of incidents happening in other states, especially in the north, and then most recently the FCT, but now it has trickled down to Ekiti State. What would you say is the root cause of this in Ekiti State?
First of all, I commiserate with those who are mourning, those who have lost families, and those whose families are, in captivity. What we are seeing in Ekiti State at the moment, southwest Nigeria, is not new. It's not new in the sense that we've been playing with the security architecture of this country. We have failure of intelligence across all sectors that we have been underplaying. For example, some time ago we had killings in Owo, in Ondo State, the same as with Ekiti State. Up to this moment, we do not know what has become of those who were apprehended, because we realized that some people were apprehended, but they were not punished. There was no sentencing. It is problematic when you have a nation that is grappling with insecurity, but you do not have penalty for criminal activities. And so it has become an industry that people who are making money elsewhere are basically telling others who have similar mindset to cash out or to cash in from such atmosphere. That is why, it is almost unthinkable. What we are seeing in the Southwest is that criminal gangs, are transferring what we now have in the North, where a lot of people are unable to go to school, a lot of people are unable to go to their farms, a lot of people are unable to go on their businesses, and now we have children who are returning from school.
So you're saying these criminal gangs have actually realized that this is probably a cash cow and are using the opportunity to milk innocent citizens?
Absolutely, that is what it is. That is what it is. Mind you, even at the time this happened, just a day before it happened, we had kings that were killed.
Yeah.
So how do you talk? They were returning from a security meeting. So essentially, I am assuming that people who informed the bandits or miscreants or killers were actually people who knew what was happening, or informants from within, the security
Quite
the security
ironic,
meeting.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm being told that we're being joined by Right Honorable Adeoye Stephen Aribasoye. He is the Speaker, Ekiti State House of Assembly. Hello, Honorable. Thank you so much for joining me at this time.
Thank you, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon. All right, so now let me still, forward this question to you, being that you are in, I'm assuming you're in Ekiti State. What is actually the root cause of these incidents, talking about the killings of the monarchs and also the abduction of the students coming from excursion? What is the root cause of these incidents, and how do you think these criminal activities can be deterred?
Well, before going to that question, I think the first thing I must say at the moment, for us in a state, is a period of mourning, and because two of our referred traditional rulers were actually killed by these marauders, and also we are traumatized, particularly with the adoption of our school children. Well, and to your question, well, it's a trend that what we have is not peculiar to the state. It's just exactly what is happening around, and asking for what is the root cause. I believe that we need to do more on our administration of criminal justice, starting with the police and to the courts, even to the correctional centers. Once there is commensurate punishment to these offenses, I believe that at least will mitigate, if not eradicate, the occurrence. So, but it's a menace that we are facing at the moment, and I believe that the best we can do, particularly for us as government, is to ensure that we have a stringent punishment, and also that that the punishments are commensurate, and that the political will on our part to enforce the law, because some act if we don't have adequate law. And I say, well, to my knowledge as a lawyer, we have the laws are there. It's just for us to also see how we can enforce the law. Thank you.
All right, Honorable, just before we, go into the laws, now, in what ways do you think that these incidents, like the killings of the monarchs in particular, in what ways do you think it will erode the trust in local governance and the traditional institutions?
Well, it's a sad one, but again, this occurrence is not enough to also erode confidence in our traditional institution or local institution. But I believe also that what we even need, that to me, that is most important, is for us to also have, I believe in devolution of power to state, particularly the issue of policing. I believe that we should have multi-level policing. The issue of having a commissioner of police, for example, take for instance from Sabara State, to Abductors, who does not even understand my language, or a police officer in my locality of Odoayedo Ekiti, who doesn't understand the terrain, who cannot speak our language, is part of the challenges that we're having at the moment. Until the security, local security, vigilantes, the Amotekos are allowed to be adequately equipped, I believe that is when we can even get out of these mandates. But what has happened is not enough to erode our confidence in the institution. It's just so unfortunate that this happened. For example, these KBCs have been very proactive when it comes to issue of security, and the incident actually happened in my own constituency. It's rather unfortunate. The
so sorry about that.
Obas were very close to it. Thank you.
All right, now what you are indeed saying is that it will in no way affect the social cohesion and stability in Ekiti State. And you also did say that it's not enough to erode the confidence of the people. But, talking about in the north, right, it got to a point where, so many students were getting kidnapped, so many pupils were actually getting kidnapped, to the point that these schools actually shut down, they closed off, and students or young children and also young adults were no longer going to schools. So how do you think that students can be protected against, such incidents going further?
Well, this is the first time we'll be having such occurrence in the state that school children, pupils will be abducted. And I can tell you that security measures are already being put in place. This afternoon, we had our special plenary session in Ekiti State House of Assembly to also discuss some of these issues we can't discuss in the open. But I can tell you that at the moment, the government of Ekiti State is on top of the situation, and I'm aware that Mr. President is also resting on his horse. And already security are being deployed to ensure the release of this pupil and their teachers. And I know that very soon they are going to be regained, and that we also is just calling on us to also work on our security architecture in the state. Before now, it has been considered as at least a state with low crime, and we enjoy a level of peace before this occurrence. And I can tell you that everything already we will put in place to ensure and to guarantee safety in our dear state, Ekiti.
All right. So, Honorable, talking about...
However, that notwithstanding, we are also already calling on government at the federal level also that, like I mentioned the other time, multi-level policing is important, and that we need unmanned area vehicles, UAV, by the Air Force. There is a command that they have that has not been operational, and I can tell you that the governor of Ekiti State is doing fine on this. Of course, is quick intervention. As a matter of fact, immediately he was at the scene of where the crime was perpetrated. He has visited the families. He has made a statewide broadcast to also instill confidence in the citizen. And all effort today again, there was a security summit, meeting, involving all stakeholders and security chiefs in the state. A lot are ongoing, and the security are out there and working tirelessly to ensure that
yes, that's actually a good thing to note. And now, a video actually went viral just shortly after the killings of these monarchs of a town hall meeting and a protest also being convened in these affected communities. Now, how do you think that traditional rulers, that's other traditional rulers and religious leaders within these communities, can leverage their influence and authority in such incidents to promote peace and also, building initiatives?
Well, even before now, in Ekiti State, part of what we do, our traditional rulers are also given, of course, role to make suggestions. If you look at our Amotekun, even recruitment into our Amotekun is primarily done by our traditional rulers. Of course, you cannot be recruited into Amotekun without at least a recommendation by the KBCs. It's just to tell you that at least to some extent in the state, traditional rulers are given that role to play in the areas of security. And today, I can tell you, the governor of Ekiti State, Brother Abayomi Ebanji, I think is still in the meeting as I speak right away, because we are just closing our own plenary session at the House of Assembly, already also meeting with the traditional rulers, and all in an effort to provide solutions to this ugly trend that we have just witnessed in Ekiti State. But I can tell you that the traditional rulers and the state government are actually working hand in hand, and we will like in our resolutions again today, part of what we have decided is that our traditional rulers should also be given roles in managing securities around their localities. Thank you.
Talking about managing securities around localities, you did mention Amotekun. Now, most people actually say that they're performing below their capacity. What are the limitations, that are actually affecting the Amotekun from, being where they're supposed to be and, building their capacity? And how can they be improved to enhance the effectiveness of responses to security incidents in Ekiti State?
Well, this is not far-fetched from the overbearing influence of the government at the center. When Amotekun was established by the southwestern Nigeria, you remember, I recall, that the federal government then do not really want it at all. And of course, and what they have done is to also put certain limitations, the type of ammunition that they can carry. And we are on this. And like I said, issue of security cannot be centralized. Issue of security has to be devolved to state, even to local government. And we have that in the United States. Each state has its own police department, and we can't just run from it. Nigeria is right to have that state police, to have multi-level policing is important, and that each state should be able to harm its security network, such as Amotekun. And I believe that it is time, and it is time for the federal government at the central level, to ensure that states are fully in charge of their security. Yes, today you say governors are the chief security officers in their respective state, but you still have a commissioner of police who will have to report to an higher authority right there in Abuja. when there are incidents in the state. Of course, you know that the police commissioners don't really take instructions from the governors. They have to take instruction either from the Inspector General of Police, right there, who is seated right there in Abuja, that doesn't even understand the gravity of what is happening in each state. And that has to be looked into. Of course, and I am an advocate, and I keep saying this as the chairman of Southwest Conference of Speakers. I was, before the unfortunate incidents, I was also in Ondo State. I met with the Speaker of Ondo State, the members of the House of Assembly of Ondo State, and the Governor of Ondo State on Monday before the incident. And I was in Oyo State. I was in Osun State. I was in Oyo State. I met with the Governor of Oyo State, and my discussion was around issue of security. Why we need that, and again, there is the need for neighboring states to collaborate is very, very important. Because when you look at what is happening in Ekiti State, the information intelligence has it that some of these criminals have they only comes to Ekiti to strike and go back to the border state like Kwara and Kogi. Some of them are not even in Ekiti State, and that also makes it very, very difficult. So there is the need for synergy when it comes to issue of security, which is one of the things that the government of Ekiti State has also stated in his broadcast, that there is the need for other states, neighboring states, for them to
yes,
collaborate.
Indeed.
And,
Honorable, I agree with you when you say everything needs to be done to, enable security in each state and in the country in general. But thank you so much for joining us on Village Square Africa to discuss this really, really pressing issue. We appreciate you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so not forgetting that we still have Abdulateef in the studio with us. Abdulateef Ahmed, he's actually the digital news editor and head of research for News Central. Thank you for staying with us, Abdulateef.
Thank you.
All right, so Abdulateef, I really want you to share your thoughts on, what the presidency actually said, calling Atiku's comment reckless after Atiku Abubakar asked the president to step down for his inability to tackle insecurity.
Well, it is understandable that the opposition will voice its concerns, will speak from its own position of information, and you would expect the federal government to respond, in a way that defends its position. But we know, for example, that insecurity has worsened in the country, and it is taking a lot of dimensions. My major concern is that the said concerted approach by the government is not sufficient. Beyond, personal attacks between political parties, I must say that security of a nation is a collective, collaborative effort. It is not enough for us to even have people living in Nigeria who do not have biodata anywhere registered. There are people living in this country that you cannot tie them to anything. There's no phone numbers that you can tie them to. There is no, basically they just roam about.
I thought that was actually sorted out, a while back.
It's not. I mean, there are still a lot of people living in Nigeria that are foreigners. There are a lot of Nigerians that are not captured, whose data, is not captured yet. So people like this pose a lot of threat to us. And then if we continue to say it's between X party and Y party, well, those who come to attack us don't care who belongs to what party. They don't care about who belongs to what religion or what part of the country. So it should not be politicized. It should be attacked, resolved headlong.
Okay. Now, some quarters have actually, said that the kidnappings in Nigeria is a transnational organized crime. It's not just in Nigeria, it spreads to other borders and other, parts of West Africa as well. Now, if you were to actually give an advice, what coordinated responses are needed to address, these interconnected threats, especially when it comes to border security? Because as they actually say, our borders are very, very porous.
So basically, most times insecurity, or when security is breached, you breach the weakest link. Now, the weakest links, for example, are many. You cannot have this spate of poverty in Nigeria and not expect that every human being that is, living below the poverty line cannot be exploited. Criminals will always exploit the poorest, the weakest in the society. That is one. Two, our borders are very porous, and until and unless we ensure that people who come into this country are identified, are captured on, on our databases, they will continue to come into this country, wreak havoc, and escape. The other commentator did say that some of these people actually do not reside in Ekiti. That is how they are. Ekiti, some of the southwest states are bordered, are bordered by another country. What it means is that some of these people can commit crimes and leave, enter into another country. We must ensure that those who get into this country are captured, are known, are seen, and are validated to be, able to come in. It's not everybody that can come into this country and go out. It's not a thoroughfare. So we must ensure that all of this is fixed. Security, one of the weakest link again is our policemen. They continue to rob on the streets, on the highways. You have no business collecting money from the average Nigerian. So when you do that in the day, at night, you can resort to something else. We also hear that some of these policemen rent their arms to criminals. So unless you prosecute, you punish, you penalize people, these crimes will continue. The cross-border crimes, criminals like themselves, they communicate with themselves. It's not difficult to call the guy who is in Niger, to call the guy who is in Chad and say, this is what we want to do. Because, commit this crime and we share the loot in quotes.
All right, so now it's a good thing you actually touched on, the police collecting bribes during the day and, renting out guns, their weapons and everything. Now, but let's take a look at the effectiveness of the current security measures and law enforcement strategies that's actually being used in Nigeria, especially in preventing and responding to kidnapping incidents in the country. Do you think improvements should be made on that, and how would you rate it?
Definitely, there has to be improvement, and improvement should cut across all sectors. For example, I did mention that people who have been caught, complicit in kidnapping cases, are not being prosecuted. It suggests to me that their sponsors are in government or are in the judiciary or somehow are ensuring that they don't get penalized, because what is the point? When someone has been caught, he's not been punished. That is one. So people who are caught, in all of these criminal activities have to be penalized. That's one. Two, Nigerians should be somewhat more security conscious, because you see, yes, police is your friend, but the quality of police we have now, you cannot rely on them. So you must ensure that you are security conscious. If you see something abnormal, report it. If you see something unusual, coordinate and inform people around you. Because sometimes you assume that you are safe, but you do not know that the weakest link, again, it could be the security guard. It could be the guys that you're underpaying. It could be the guys that are moving around, taking waste, on the streets and all of that. These people can be exploited. So we must ensure that we are mindful of what we see and what we say and sometimes it's even because of our extravagant lifestyle. When we host parties that are, unthinkable. Someone the other day hosted a party and spent about ₦1 billion. Sometimes you begin to wonder, where is this money coming from? So the feelers from the criminals is that people who will have their faces and their names in all of these big parties must have some substantial amount in their accounts, and sometimes they are being targeted. So we have to be mindful of how we spend and how we interact in our societies to ensure that these things don't continue.
All right, so just before we wrap up, let's talk about Amotekun once again. How do you think they are performing below their capacity, and why is that? Because it looks like so many, outfits are springing up here and there. The other day I was actually reading about the Mieti Allah outfit, that sprung up. And yes, even though the leader has actually been arrested and is still, being questioned, what do you think about other security outfits, springing up every now and then?
So the security outfits springing up is a response to the federal government's unwillingness or inability to ensure that people are able to own their security. Talk about state policing, multi-strategy policing. You have to ensure that people can police themselves. They choose who to police them. Now, if you don't do that, what happens is, security networks like this. Now, Amotekun has been doing its best. In fact, as of yesterday, Ondo State Amotekun arrested about 31 persons connected to kidnapping, rape, vandalism, and theft. Now, I can assure you that if we were to go after these 31 persons, give me another 6 months, and I ask what has happened to these 31 persons, I'm not sure these people will be prosecuted. That is problematic. Unless we improve our, criminal justice system, we'll continue to have all of this repeat. But for me, I think Amotekun can improve itself with technology. Since it has a backing of state governors in the Southwest, it should be armed with the right technology to be able to, prevent and bust crimes.
All right, well, thank you so much, Abdulateef Ahmed, for joining me on Village Square Africa to discuss this.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much as well. Right Honorable Adeoye Stephen Aribasoye, Speaker, Ekiti State House of Assembly. We appreciate you for your time. Well, viewers, we've come to the end of Village Square Africa for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and staying with us. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same station. Thank you so much. I'm Darshan Usman. Join us again.